I never imagined I would open up about this. However, life has wonderful ways of guiding you on unexpected adventures. Hi there, I'm Laura, and I'm 48 years young. From the moment I became a mother, I have cherished every moment with my son David, nurturing him as a loving single parent. He is currently 25 years old, and we have always shared a special bond, facing life's challenges together as a team. That night, something magical occurred that I still can't quite grasp. After putting in a lot of hard work and spending many hours studying, David looked very tired but proud of his efforts. He mentioned that he wasn't feeling his best. I let him take a short nap in my cozy bed. On a chilly evening, the house felt a bit colder than normal, so I wrapped it up snugly with a warm blanket. At first, everything was going smoothly, with a loving mother keeping a watchful eye on her son's happiness and comfort. When I sat next to him, David came closer, leaning under the blanket as if he wanted to share some warmth. He leaned gently against my shoulder, reminding me of the days when he was small. At first, I didn't notice him much. I thought he just needed a bit of encouragement, so I decided to give him some space. The feel safe one with children, his steady breathing, everything felt surprisingly cozy and reassuring to me. As he settled into a peaceful moment, I noticed his breathing becoming slower, as if he were gently drifting off to sleep. The room was filled with a peaceful stillness, letting me hear the gentle rhythm of my heart beating softly. I stood still in that moment, quietly observing, realizing it was just a mother providing her son with the comfort he needed. However, later, David adjusted his position under the blanket, trying to feel more comfortable. As he wrapped his arms around me, I paused for a moment, unsure of how to respond. I felt the urge to lighten the mood with a silly comment, but instead, I decided to stay quiet and let the moment unfold. In the atmosphere, a certain feeling was sensed without words, wrapping around me at that moment, leaving me a bit confused in my thoughts and emotions. I saw him shifting around under the blanket, likely trying to find a cozier spot to settle in. I began to feel a little anxious, trying to stay calm in the moment. I focused on staying calm, reminding myself that it wasn't a big deal and that I hardly even noticed it. However, as the minutes passed, my thoughts began to swirl in surprising directions. The atmosphere between us became charged with excitement, and I was filled with a whirlwind of emotions, curiosity, a bit of unease, and a bubbly energy that made my heart race. David stayed nearby, his breathing calm, while the silence in the room felt heavy for me. I felt the urge to explore new places and find a different spot to enjoy, but I just couldn't find the right words to explain what I did. Then he moved softly and lifted his head to gaze at me. The look in his eyes was like a puzzle waiting to be solved, friendly, curious, and persistent. I felt a warm sense of care, ensuring that I was safe and sound. He stayed quiet, but his face showed that he was wondering if everything was going just right. I gave a cheerful smile, wishing to brighten the awkward moment. However, I only made the quiet even more noticeable. He placed his hand softly on my arm, his touch lightly against my skin in a friendly manner. It was so small, so gentle, but the feeling was like a burst of excitement. His small gestures made me reflect deeply, leaving me quietly emotional that was hard to forget. I focused on taking deep, steady breaths, wishing to calm the fluttering of my heart. I felt a bit confused, unsure of how to respond to what was happening around me. I stayed in that moment of joyful connection, feeling completely wrapped up in the special bond we had. It was something I couldn't quite put into words. It was just there, quietly lingering, and felt like a challenge to overcome. I believed it was just a mother giving her son a warm hug. In the peacefulness of that moment, snuggled under the blanket, my thoughts danced freely. The little boy who I recognized as my son filled my heart with a warm and wonderful feeling, a special connection that I had never experienced before. It was a mix of surprise and love that made it hard for me to approach him. David stayed close to me, his hand gently resting on my arm, offering comfort and encouragement. I took a deep breath, keeping my eyes closed, and I started to wonder if he had drifted off to sleep. Then, his hand rested lightly on my arm, offering silent reassurance, making me feel a delightful tingle. When I opened my eyes, I found myself looking into his kind eyes, and I felt a warm sense of calm. With a curious look in his eyes, it seemed he was wondering if everything was just right, sharing the same delightful wonder as he was. I softly whispered the name of that special someone. He barely noticed I was speaking. I wanted to find a way to change things and start fresh, but I just couldn't bring myself to leave. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken feelings between mother and child, like the calm before a gentle rain. And both of them simply shared a quiet moment together. Feelings danced around them, unspoken words that neither of them could quite say. Then, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world, it bent even more. As my heart raced with excitement, my mind was filled with a mix of thoughts, but I just couldn't bring myself to leave. I felt a tug of war inside me when I found myself balancing my role as a caring parent with some surprising emotions that had come up. When he looked toward me, I sensed he wanted to share something important, faded away, leaving just that special moment between us. Thomas's hand softly landed on my shoulder, his fingers pausing as if he were pondering what to do next. The outside world faded away, leaving just the comforting feel safe one with children and the gentle rhythm of his breath. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, hoping to find a little peace in my busy mind. I chose to take a step back to create some space from the closeness made me pause and reflect on how to best support him. However, at that moment, his hand softly brushed a strand of my hair. That small and gentle gesture filled my heart with warmth, sparking feelings I couldn't quite put into words. When I opened my eyes, I saw his kind gaze looking at me, filled with a warmth I had never experienced before. I was so close that I could see every little detail of his face. The little freckles on his nose, the way his lips curved into a smile, and how his eyes sparkled when they met mine. The look of uncertainty on his face mirrored my own, and in that moment, I understood that he was just as puzzled as I was. We stayed in that spot, still and quiet, as if time itself had paused just for us. As my thoughts swirled with curiosity and doubt, my body stayed still, choosing to pause and reflect. I felt a wonderful bond with him, that special person I had looked after. However, at that moment, he appeared to be a completely different person to me. David took a small step back, sensing that maybe we could use a moment to catch our breath. He turned his gaze, his cheeks turning a rosy hue, and he chuckled nervously while gently rubbing his neck. In that moment, I realized just how close we had become. I took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the room as the tension started to fade away. With a gentle voice, he shared his feelings with his mother, expressing his uncertainty. He wanted to keep things friendly and lighthearted. He looked away, not wanting to meet my eyes. His unsure words showed he was facing a challenge just like I was. I wanted to bring him joy, to assure him that everything was just fine. However, the words felt trapped inside me. After a long time, I felt a bit uneasy around my son. I gave him a gentle pat on the shoulder with a warm smile, reassuring him that everything was okay and that he could always rely on me. I spoke to David with a calm and encouraging tone, even though my heart was feel confused. We have been on our own for quite a while now. We might both be feeling a bit confused, a gentle calmness shone in his eyes. The mood in the room started to lighten up. The tallest person in our group felt lighter just as the bell chimed. We were taken aback by the unexpected sound, bringing us back to the present moment like a gentle breeze. I quickly jumped to my feet, grateful for the unexpected break. As I approached the door, my legs felt a little wobbly, trying to settle the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. As I opened the door, I was greeted by Mike, our friendly neighbor, who stood there with a warm and familiar smile that brightened his face. Mike was known for his big heart, always ready to lend a hand to his neighbors, whether it was shoveling snow or helping out with any task that needed a little teamwork. However, tonight I noticed something special in the way his eyes looked at me. With a warm smile, he happily greeted Laura by saying her name. I thought about coming over to see if you needed any help with the chilly weather coming in. If you have any issues with the heating or anything else, I'm here to help and would be happy to assist you. The words he spoke were casual, but his tone was warm and inviting, filling me with a sense of calm and comfort. As I came back to the moment, I smiled brightly at Mike, feeling thankful and more confident in my voice. Recently, the house has felt a bit chilly, and it would be wonderful to warm it up. As I walked into Mike's place, I spotted David waiting in the hallway, his face showing a mix of emotions that was hard to read. He remained quiet, but his eyes filled the room with a unique energy. I watched the person closely, and For a brief moment, I thought I saw a spark in their eyes, something that looked like curiosity, but it faded away just as quickly as it appeared. I felt a little uneasy about that thought, curious if there was something in his quietness that he wasn't ready to share. As Mike strolled through the house, he checked the heater and chatted with me while I worked on my tasks for the day. During our chat, we talked about the weather, the neighborhood, and other everyday things, but I couldn't shake the feeling that David was with us in spirit. He whispered softly, keeping his eyes fixed on us with a curious expression. The vibrant energy filled the air, creating a sense of wonder and curiosity that lingered all around. I felt a tug of war inside me as I tried to appreciate Mike's kindness while also dealing with David, who seemed to notice everything I did. After a brief moment, Mike turned to me with his usual friendly smile. Laura, everything looks great. If you need anything at all, just let me know. I'm here to help. I thanked Mike warmly as I walked with him to the door. As I gently closed the door behind him, a peaceful hush filled the house, feeling even more comforting than before. When I turned around, David stood right where he was, arms crossed and a thoughtful expression on his face. David, are you feeling all right? I gently asked about the arrangement of the pieces, hoping to understand their feelings. He let out a small sigh and looked down at his shoes. I'm doing well, I just didn't expect to run into Mike. That's everything. I wanted to share more, hoping to create a connection that would bring us closer together. But before he could reach his goal, he walked past me and headed to his room. After he left, the door closed softly behind him, and I was left with a mix of feelings that felt both new and curious. A sense of comfort, a bit of puzzlement, and an exciting feeling that something wonderful is about to happen. I watched the door while my mind wandered in different directions. It was hard to put into words the warmth in my heart. It was a mix of heartfelt feelings, hope, and curiosity. I turned and walked happily towards my room. As I sat on the edge of my bed, I thought back to that night, replaying the events in my mind like a favorite story, the special bond that David and I had formed, how his eyes lit up when he saw Mike, and the friendship that blossomed between us over time. I knew I had to face him eventually, but I wasn't sure how to handle it either. Just then, a gentle knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. My heart raced with excitement as I thought it might be David. Please go on, I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. The door swung open, and there he was, standing at the entrance with a curious smile that made me wonder what adventures awaited us. He quietly closed the door behind him and took a seat beside me on the edge of the bed. There was a moment when we all just smiled at each other. The silence between us felt thick, filled with all the things we had never said. It was a weight we both sensed, but we just didn't know how to share it and make it lighter. With a soft and gentle whisper, the adventure began. Mom, I'm feeling a bit puzzled about what's happening right now. I wish I had handled things differently to keep everyone feeling at ease. Just me. As I observed his hands, he paused in his speech and his voice softened. I reached out and gently placed my hand on his, giving it a reassuring squeeze to help ease the moment's tension. How is David doing? I asked gently. Maybe we're both feeling a little lost at the moment. We've been on our own for quite a while, and sometimes that can make things a bit confusing, he said gently, focusing on his hands. And he looked at me with eyes full of emotions that were hard for me to understand. A sense of uncertainty was felt, accompanied by a touch of sadness and a quest for understanding. In my case, he began to speak with a gentle quiver in his voice, as if he was thinking carefully about how to finish his thought. I couldn't find the words to express how I felt. I felt a heavy weight in my heart, filled with questions and worries. For a moment, I thought of giving him a warm hug, letting him know that everything would be all right and that we would work together to find a happy solution. I wasn't quite sure, and I paused to think about whether that would help or make things a bit more tricky. So I decided to stay still, letting the quiet share what we wanted to say. Finally, I took a deep breath, gathered my courage, and looked him in the eyes with determination. David, I asked gently, maybe it's a good idea to take a step back and think about everything that's happening. Being close to each other is great, but it's also okay to find a little time alone to think things through and solve problems. Even though I sounded calm, inside I felt like I was on an adventure in a new place. unsure if I was saying the right things. He spoke again, this time more slowly, and to my surprise, he gently rested his head on my shoulder. His action reminded me of those cherished days from my youth when he would come to me seeking comfort after a tough day. The gentle weight of his head on my shoulder filled me with warmth and a sense of closeness, even though there was a hint of unspoken feelings between mother and child lingering in the air. With a comforting arms like childhood, I held him close, making sure he felt safe while also wondering about the journey ahead. It turned out to be a warm gesture that made me think about our bond, even though I now had a little detail that couldn't be overlooked. I felt a gentle peace that had been missing from my life for quite a while. Maybe it wasn't necessary to have all the answers right now. Maybe it was just wonderful to cherish our time together, moving forward step by step, no matter how tricky things appeared. As we held each other close in a warm embrace, I couldn't help but hope that this moment would help us understand each other better. Yet in my heart, I knew that things were a bit more complicated than they seemed. Our closeness was comforting, filled with warmth and joy, as if something wonderful was about to unfold. Even though we stayed still and calm like the peaceful surroundings around us, I knew this wasn't the final chapter of our story. There was a special bond between the two. A quiet moment passed, filled with a deep family bond that didn't need words, but that would shine brightly for everyone to see one day. After a brief pause, David glanced up at me with a thoughtful expression. Mom, I'm feeling a bit mixed up with all these feelings. I want to keep things simple for us, but I can't just overlook them either. The words he whispered floated in the air, like a curious thought he was too shy to share. As I searched for the right words, my thoughts were buzzing with excitement when, just as I was about to speak, a cheerful knock on the door echoed through the room. We both leaped in surprise and exchanged wide-eyed glances, completely taken aback. The impact was strong, almost surprising, as if the person on the other side had a special understanding of what was going on. With a flutter of excitement, I stood up and opened the door. Once again, Mike was in the room, offering a warm gesture of care. Laura, I hope you don't mind me stepping in for a moment. I just wanted to make sure everything is going smoothly. Your past actions were a bit unusual. I noticed David, who gazed at us with a calm and thoughtful expression. I made sure to keep my voice gentle and friendly while responding. Thank you, Mike. We're all good here, just having a nice, peaceful evening together. Mike watched David with a curious look after glancing my way. I'm here for you whenever you need help. Just remember that. Once he left, I closed the door and turned towards David, who was still gazing at me with a curious expression. He walked toward me quietly, and I wondered what he might want to say. There was a feeling of uncertainty between us, filled with unspoken thoughts. As he leaned in for a comforting hug, the tension between us began to ease. A change was seen on his face, as if he were facing a challenge within himself. He quietly suggested that it might be better not to push the matter. His voice showed a hint of uncertainty. Maybe it's a good idea to take a little break. I felt my heart filled with a whirlwind of emotions. You're absolutely correct, David. We should think about everything together. Let's take our time. He sensed it as well, and we stayed in that spot, near yet careful, as if we were on the edge of something wonderful just beyond our reach. The outcome marked a fresh start, a new adventure that was full of possibilities waiting to be explored. As he headed off to his room, I couldn't help but think about all the exciting adventures that awaited us in the future. If you're curious to learn more about our story, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We can't wait to share what happens next with you all.